Hey everybody, welcome back to Whiteboard Finance. My name is Marco and I'm here to help you master your money and build your wealth. In today's video, I'm going to talk about where to park your cash since the Fed is going to continue to lower rates. So I did a video about this about a week and a half ago. Shortly after that video about the Fed lowering rates 50 basis points, aka 0.5%, my high yield savings account went from 5% to 4.5%, and my Capital One account went from 4.25% to 4.1%, and it's only going to go lower. So in this video, we're going to talk about different asset classes to where it's actually going to be tiered. It's pretty cool. We have a tier ranking system that I'm going to show you and use. But I want to tier it from basically S tier, the best, all the way to D tier being the worst of where to park your cash. But before we get into that, let's talk about how the Fed is actually most likely going to continue cutting rates. So this is CMEgroup.com. This is basically showing the probability of November 7th meeting of the FOMC, Federal Open Market Committee. They're basically saying that they're going to lower rates to 450 to 475 basis points, so basically 4.5% to 4.75%. There's an 85.9% chance of that happening. There's a 14.1% chance of them maintaining what it currently is right now. A little bit easier way to see this is if you go to probabilities and I zoom in here, you can see basically these are the meeting dates. You have November 7th all the way to October 29th, 2025, so basically a year from now. You can see here that anything blue is the highest percentage or highest probability, and that shows 86% dropping the rate about 25 basis points. Same thing, dropping in December, dropping in January, dropping in March, dropping in June, that kind of a thing right there. So how does the S&P 500 actually react to these rate cuts? Okay, and if you watch my last video, you already know the answer to this. But basically, the S&P 500 returns 4.9% on average 1 year after the first interest rate cut, and they see positive returns nearly 70% of the time. So take that into consideration. So what are these rates? So typically the Fed funds rate is basically what commercial banks can lend each other money at. It's kind of like the basis at which they get their money, and then they basically loan it out to you at a higher interest rate. That's arbitrage. That's how banks make money. But something that you may or may not have heard of is the prime rate. If you guys that are a little bit older remember LIBOR, L-I-B-O-R. The prime rate is basically at which banks lend money out to you. It's typically variable. So if it's like a home equity line of credit, maybe it's the base rate minus 51 basis points. Sometimes it can be above the prime rate. It just depends. Like if you're borrowing against a stock account, for example, it just depends on what type of loan you're asking for or looking for. But you can see here in 2020, the prime rate was 3.25%. And it was as high as 8.5% as of July 27th, 2023. Right now, it's sitting at 8%. So here's an example. Here's good old Third Federal Savings and Loan. I'm not affiliated with them, but I do have a HELOC with them that I don't use. It's just an open home equity line of credit. I just never use it. So remember, the prime rate is 8%. You can see here that their HELOCs are 7.49% because it's variable. Annual percentage rate of prime minus 0.51%. That's an example of prime being used for a HELOC. So let's talk a little bit about inflation. Remember, the whole reason we're parking our cash is because we want to make sure that we're actually at least keeping up with inflation, if not beating it. That's typically going to be hard because typically savers are losers, right? We're losing purchasing power to just keeping cash in the bank. But you can see here, the CPI right now is sitting at 2.5% for all items, all major categories, okay? Food is 2.1%. Energy is down 4%, which is cool. And then all items minus food and energy is 3.2%. There's many different ways to calculate inflation. CPI is one of them. If we look at trueflation, they actually have it at 1.98%, believe it or not. And during 2022, they had it at about 11.5%, okay? And then finally, I'll show you the last one is shadow stats. Typically, the way they compute CPI was changed in 1990. That's what this blue line is. If they use the same criteria as 1990, shadow stats has inflation sitting at just under, I'd say 7%. This is only up until like mid-2023. But if you look at this one, this CPI at the time of this chart was just about 4%. We all know now that it's about 2.5, so it's typically a little bit lower right here if this chart were updated. And then for the trueflation, or excuse me, the shadow stats inflation, it's probably going to be closer to 10%, if that makes sense. So why am I even showing you inflation numbers? It's because that's the hurdle rate. That's what we're trying to beat. If we're making 5% in these things that I'm about to show you, and inflation is 10%, well, congratulations, we're losing 5% per year of purchasing power. Get it? Okay, so here's a sneak preview of what the tier maker is going to look like. So if you guys aren't familiar with these tier lists, we basically have S all the way through D, D being the worst, S being the best. And we have some infographics down here, but let's not pay attention to those just yet. So what I want to do is I want to actually go into here and go to certain asset classes that have provided not necessarily a risk-free rate of return, but it's damn near close to it, right? Some are, but there's always the risk of regional banks failing, governments not being able to pay back their loans or their T-bills or obligations, things like that. But let's just pretend that's not the case. So I do have a couple things on this list that are not risk-free. Typically, people don't park their cash in these some do, but we'll get to that later. So what I wanted to start with was T-bills. So you can see here, this column is the issue date, so you can see when the Fed didn't cut rates or were just close to it, you can see that an 8-week T-bill was yielding 5.099%, okay? So basically 5.1%. Now, if we scroll back up, that was, let's see, September 17th. Now, if I scroll back up and look at the same 8-week for October 8th, it's basically coming in at 25 basis points less. We're at 4.754%. So these T-bills are earning anywhere right now at the time of this recording, 3.94% all the way to 4.84%. The thing is, with T-bills, you have to you don't necessarily have to keep your money in there. You can always sell the T-bill. But for the way most people are using it in the context of this video, you are locking up your money for that duration of time, okay? So is it worth it? I don't know. So for me, I'm going to put T-bills. This is a picture of a T-bill. It's just a really small image. I'm going to put this in the C category, okay? It's a nice risk-free rate of return, typically. I don't see the USA defaulting on any of their debt anytime soon. And we're going to put that one in the C tier. So now that we know what's going on, we're going to get into other things like CDs and precious metals and a bunch of different stuff. But before that, here's a word from today's sponsor, Policy Genius. The holidays are around the corner, and I have peace of mind knowing that the people I love the most are covered with life insurance that I found using Policy Genius. Many of my friends are having kids, they're starting families, they're coming to me asking for insurance and investing advice. I always recommend Policy Genius because not only did I use it to find my term life insurance policy, but because the process was so simple and it saved me a ton of time. We spoke to one of their licensed experts. She gave us options based on the amount of insurance coverage and term of the policy that we thought was appropriate, and we went from there step by step. The process couldn't have been simpler. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options are 100% online, and they let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. My wife and I didn't have to have any medical exams and did everything over the phone. I like working with Policy Genius, and I recommend them to everyone because they are simply a marketplace that helps people find and buy insurance. They are not an insurance company. They can help you compare options by getting quotes from America's top insurers, and you don't have to worry about them having your best interest at hand. They work for you, not the insurance companies. Sometimes there are financial advisors or insurance salespeople that sell you the policy that makes them the most money while not having your best interest in mind. I didn't have this worry with Policy Genius. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/whiteboardfinance or click the link in the description to compare free life insurance quotes from top companies and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/whiteboardfinance. Okay, now that we've covered T-bills, let's get into something else. Let's talk about CDs. So at the time of this recording, CDs are certificates of deposit. It's basically like you locking up your money with a bank. There are no penalty CDs, but they typically give you smaller of a return. CDs at the time of this recording are earning anywhere from 4 to 5% essentially, okay? And this is essentially risk-free unless the bank or the lending institution at which you have your money at is basically going bankrupt. And even then, you do have some FDIC insurance, I believe. So with all this being said, it's very similar to a T-bill. You're locking up your money for a predetermined rate for a predetermined amount of time. There are some variable things. There are some minimum deposits. There are some no penalty CDs out there. But again, they're typically going to give you a lower rate of return, which is going to have me put CDs as also very similar to T-bills. That'll be in the C tier as well. Okay, so let's move on to something that's kind of an alternative investment off the beaten path, and that is gold. Okay, so in the last 45 years, the gold spot price index in US dollars has had a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of 5.35%. Okay, so that puts it a little bit above CDs. It puts it a little bit above T-bills. Yes, I'm not comparing them to the same exact time period, but I'm comparing what gold has done in the last 45 years as a CAGR compared to what your high-yield savings account or your T-bills or CDs can yield right now. So with that being said, we're going to put gold. Let's see. I feel like I need to give this a little bit of context. I'm going to give gold a C+. And the reason for that is because gold, although it has been a tangible store of wealth for thousands of years, and a lot of people call gold real money, fiat, US dollar, this is fake money. But I can't go to Costco and shave off a little bit of gold to buy some milk, right? I can't go to my local grocery store and take a little, quarter ounce of gold or whatever, and buy groceries with it. So, well, that'd be a lot of groceries. That'd be hundreds of dollars worth right now in 2024. But my point is, typically there's a saying that says back in Roman times, an ounce of gold could buy you a nice tunic. Now an ounce of gold can buy you a really nice suit. That suit would probably be about $2,400 at the time of this recording, but that is a really nice suit. So it has maintained purchasing power, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't yield anything, doesn't give you a rate of return. There's no interest. And for some people who are against usury, making money just by being money, some people like precious metals for that reason. Some people don't because it doesn't yield anything. So gold is going to be a C+, okay, for the long term. And you can always give it to friends and family. I'm saving up gold for, giving to my, knock on wood, future grandkids. So that's why I buy a couple ounces of gold every year. Now, let's get into what for me has been great, are high-yield savings accounts if you're going to park cash somewhere. So high-yield savings accounts at the time of this recording are yielding anywhere from 4.1% to about 5.25%. When you get into the 5.3s and all this other stuff, you get into weird incentives and they only last for 3 months and blah, 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 blah. So right now, high-yield savings accounts, they're yielding 4.1 to about 5.25 if you get a good one. There's Discover, there's Capital One. They're in the 4.1 range, but the customer service is impeccable and they're legitimate. When you get into the higher yielding stuff, you have banks, digital banks by Santander. Some people are complaining about customer service and things like that. I've never used it. I've been with Capital One for years, if not decades, not decades plural, but a decade or more. And then also I use M1 Finance high yield savings account as well. So for me, the piggy bank will... Let's bump this up. We're bumping this up to B tier for high yield savings accounts. And the reason for that is because it's liquid and it's also FDIC insured. And some of these are FDIC insured way more than $250,000 these days, which is good. So cash is liquid. It's not locked up and you're getting a higher rate of return than a T-bill or a CD and potentially over gold, close to gold, a little bit less at 5.25 versus 5.35. But it's right in the neighborhood, and it's very liquid, and you can use it at Costco. It's called the US dollar. Now, here's where I wanted to get into some stuff that's a little bit more alternative. It's not, it's literally considered alternative, but to you, to your ears, to the audience, it may not be. That's real estate, stocks, and we'll get to the next thing when I'm done talking about real estate and stocks. So real estate, from 1968 to 2009, the average rate of appreciation for existing homes increased around 5.4% per year. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 averaged a 7.5% return. Small cap stocks averaged 11.5% per year. The rate of inflation was around 4.6% during this period. So with that being said, yes, real estate can average significantly more than 5.4% per year. Typically, it's kept up with inflation, depending on your market. If you're in San Francisco, it's a little bit more like this, boom and bust. If you're in Cleveland in the Midwest, it's a little bit more like this, keep up with inflation, right? And then anything in between, your Tennessees, your Sun Belts, your Floridas, you name it, right? So that's why I'm going to put real estate. Also, with the high yield savings account, a lot of people use their primary residences as a forced savings account by AKA paying off their mortgage, right? There's a ton of tax benefits that come with investing in real estate. You can write off a lot of taxes. So that 5.4% is not including that, but you also have to work for it, right? If you want to be a landlord, you either have to be a really good manager of property managers, or you have to be a really good property manager yourself, right? That entails work and effort. Sometimes it's a lot of work and effort. Sometimes it's not, but that 5.4% is just nominal. But there's a ton of other benefits that come with owning real estate. Now, if we look into stocks, I'm a big proponent of index funds, ETFs, getting the typical 7.5% all the way up to 10, 11, depending on what the ETF is, with the small caps, for example. But I'm going to put stocks. This, for me, my friends, is going into the A tier. And the reason for that, some people love stocks, some people hate stocks, some people love real estate, some people hate real estate. But I'm putting stocks in the A tier because it is 100% passive. There are no toilets, there are no tenants, there is no headache, depending on how you invest. I invest the majority of my net worth in index funds and ETFs, and I set it and forget it, and I enjoy my life. There's other people that trade stocks 8 million times a year to eke out a 8% gain. Wow, congratulations. Or day traders lose money, make money, taxable events, a lot of headache. For me, I'm set it and forget it. That's why I'm considering real estate and stocks, even as a part of this conversation on where to park your cash, right? It's not going to be risk-free, but that's also why you're getting higher returns. You're compensated for the amount of risk you're putting into it. So finally, for me, S tier. What could S tier be? Is Bitcoin a D tier? Is it C tier? Is it B tier? Is it A tier? Bitcoin is S tier, baby. Let's go. And the reason for that is this. Compound annual growth rate. In the last 12 years, the Bitcoin index in US dollars had a compound annual growth rate of 100.68%. Oh, wow. Look at that. 100% CAGR. Interesting. Yes, you do have to live with a lot of ups and downs. Yes, you do have to live with a lot of 4-year cycles. Yes, you have to live with a lot of speculation, a lot of manipulation, a lot of bad press, a lot of whatever. That is not Bitcoin. These are exchanges. These are human beings. These are things that are affiliated with Bitcoin. Bitcoin itself is the greatest savings account ever created in human history and the greatest currency ever created. But I do sound a little bit biased. I don't want to turn this into a Bitcoin video. If you want to read more about it, there's a ton of different books. I have a million tweets about it. But I would just read The Bullish Case for Bitcoin. I would read Inventing Bitcoin. I would read The Bitcoin Standard. I would read, there's a bunch of stuff I can tell you. Maybe I'll link some of it in the description down below. But for me, if I go to S tier and see who our winner is, it is Bitcoin, my friends. And in the words of the famous, infamous Satoshi Nakamoto, if you don't believe me or don't get it, I don't have time to try to convince you. Sorry. You can learn about it more yourself, but for me, it is the hardest form of money ever created and the greatest savings technology ever created by humans. So let's recap. Let's zoom in a little bit. Not the progressive lady. Use Policy Genius. Bitcoin, S tier. Stocks, A tier. High yield savings account right now, B tier. Real estate, B plus in my opinion. Treasury bills, CDs, and gold. Anyone can invest in these. Very simple. Set it and forget it. Right now, the yield, we're not really keeping up with inflation. Trueflation, CPI, yes, we are. When you look at shadow stats and the way things were recorded, such as real estate and things like that, inflation is a lot more. Ask any 20-something trying to buy a house right now in 2024. Thank you so much for watching. Share this video. These take a lot of time and effort to create, organize, and research. Algorithm does not like my channel right now because I was taking a little bit of a break. I was working with NerdWallet. I was in Europe for about 2.5, 3 weeks. Start sharing my videos. The algorithm hates me right now, and I feel like I provide a lot of value and a lot of good content. Thank you so much, and have a prosperous day. Don't forget to check out WhiteBoard Finance University. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Marko, Bitcoin is a scam. I don't buy it. It's fake money.